Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff with the Taproot Foundation, and I'm your host for today, joining you from Arlington, Virginia. Hope you all had a good weekend, and this is a good start to your week. I'm experiencing today with you with a great passion for volunteering. And if you know me, you know this. And if you don't, then I hope my enthusiasm over the next hour will prove it. Some technical notes about today's event. Our conversation is being recorded for those who wanted to but could not attend. All participants are muted and in listen-only mode. Hopefully you can see at this point that we have turned on closed captioning. If you want to turn this off, you have the option to do so. That'll be on the right side of your browser next to where it says AV Pod. And you can click on the gear icon and toggle off captions. We do encourage you to use the chat to comment, to validate on what you're hearing, to share advice that you think is helpful to others at any time during the event. You can also ask questions in the chat at any point during the presentation. When you do so, you won't interrupt our speakers. We've reserved a lot of time to address questions in the second half of our time together. We also offer additional ways for you to participate. Throughout our presentation today, we will invite you to respond to multiple online polls that will give our speakers and you, each other, in the audience, a sense of your attitudes and expectations about skill-based volunteering. Finally, Taproot will send everyone that attends today the resources that we introduce and speak to, as well as any questions that you asked, but were not answered. Hope that sounds good for all of you. I'll ask my colleague Kristen to advance us to the next slide in our agenda. This is what we'll cover today. I'll briefly introduce Taproot, what we do as an organization, and how we work with companies. We'll then focus on the perspectives and experiences of staff from one of Taproot's most valued corporate partners, 3M. And we'll close by responding to your questions and suggest some ways that you can keep moving on your volunteer journey wherever you are. So a little bit about Taproot on our next slide. We're a nonprofit that helps nonprofits and small businesses get the support they need from volunteers, specifically with professional expertise in communications, marketing, finance, IT, human resources, strategy, and more. Operations that are core for nonprofits and small businesses to succeed at what they are trying to do. Taproot is, in brief, an experienced and successful matchmaker. Next slide will offer you some highlights about Taproot's impact over the last 20 years. Pretty impressive results. We hope they're impressive to you. They are to us. We can achieve them thanks to the commitment, dedication, and passion of Taproot board and staff that we affectionately call Roots, our nonprofit leaders who make known their needs to us, and of course, the generosity of financing and human capital from our corporate and philanthropic partners who respond to that need. Our next slide will showcase a bit about how Taproot partners with companies. They often come to us to showcase their commitment to social impact, to invest in their employees, and many other motivations. But whatever the reason, we are grateful for their generosity and their partnership. We mostly partner with companies in the 4 ways that you see presented here. Today, our focus is going to be on demand volunteering. Next slide, please, Kristen. Thank you to my Roots who are supporting with this event as well. At this time, it's a pleasure to begin the transition from me and Taproot to hear directly from your peers, 2 people representing a valued Taproot partner from 3M, and 2 people who, myself included, admire as exceptional human beings and modeling the kind of behavior that we hope to see among all of our partners. But just before I hand it to our first speaker, Stacey, we want to hear from you and to give us a sense of where your organization is on its volunteer journey by answering the following question. This is one of our polls. So our expectation and understanding will be that you have the ability to interact with us today by answering a poll that you see on your screen. Great, I see some results that are coming in. If that's not something that you also see as a participant, we'll make sure that we get the results to you of these polls. But I do see the responses coming in, and I'm very appreciative of that. For some of you, you're crushing it. That's great. We'll hope to hear some of your advice in the chat as we move forward with today's presentation. as well as those who are making progress but have some things to learn. We are sure you learned some things already. And for those of you that have answered on kind of the novice end, that's great. We're really glad that you're here, and we hope that you will similarly learn a lot about skill-based volunteering. So thank you everybody for answering. That's great. We've got 2 more polls, and we'll hope for the same kind of engagement and enthusiasm from you as participants. But now it's with great delight and an honor to transition to our first speaker, Stacey. Stacey, welcome. I would love to turn it to you to say hello and share what drives 3M to advance skill-based volunteering at your company and make it available to employees on demand and year-round. Stacey, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. As Jeff said, my name is Stacey Claessens, and I'm a manager within 3M Public Affairs and as part of the 3M Gives team, the philanthropic arm of 3M Company. My pronouns are she, her. I've been a part of 3M for over 26 years, and as part of my responsibilities, I have the privilege of leading our pro bono offerings. I'm really excited to share more about our skills-based volunteerism offerings at 3M, and in particular, why we partner with Taproot to offer Taproot Plus to our global 3Mers. Our 3M vision is to make what is indispensable to empower modern life, advance human progress, and deliver a brighter future through 3M science. We use our strengths to invent and make products the world can't do without, while also improving lives and moving the world forward in a positive and sustainable way, helping our customers, our communities, employees, and society build a more prosperous future. We want to do more than just win in business. We really want to give back. We know that many NGOs, social enterprise organizations, and small businesses have limited resources to increase their capacity and their effectiveness. To address this need, 3M encourages skills-based volunteerism to utilize the very best of what we have to offer, our people, or 3Mers, as we fondly refer to ourselves, through these more formal pro bono program offerings and our in-demand offering through Taproot Plus. We focus on our people, our products, and our philanthropy in 3M Gives. And as part of that, we aim to foster leadership development through skills-based volunteerism, which may require 3M participants to step a bit out of their comfort zones, expand their mindsets, and learn about the unique challenges and opportunities of their assigned organizations. And most importantly, we hope that 3Mers and their unique skills and lived experiences might have a lasting impact on these organizations by creating contextualized and achievable solutions, boosting their ability to exceed in our communities. In addition to empowering 3Mers like Ginny, whom we will hear from in just a bit, to give of their time locally in their community through general volunteerism, because we are a global corporation across many time zones, offering 3M employees the opportunity to apply their professional expertise at times that work in and amongst their core roles and responsibilities is one way we can meet employees where they are. Some may want a project that's one and done, while others may have the desire and the time to sign up for something over multiple weeks. We have Work Your Way at 3M, which offers a lot of flexibility. We're in different time zones around the globe. We have different global teams that we are either reporting to or assigned to internally at 3M. So we wanted to approach skills-based volunteerism much the same, and having Taproot Plus as another avenue for 3Mers that are interested in logging on perhaps at different times or different days that work for them best in their schedule, either personally or certainly with their core role and responsibilities, is really, again, where we feel like we can show up and foster this community of giving back within 3M, but also meeting them where they are, not confined to one day, 1 hour, one solution, but really offering them a broad array of things that might be really important to them by way of wanting to give back in social impact in their lives. We know the demands placed on NGOs and social enterprise orgs are next level today. We talk to these organizations a lot as part of what we do in 3M Gives. And there's many that we have connected with that have said, checks, that philanthropic investment is really important. We know this. Money makes the world go round. But they have also said that when 3Mers use their skills, their lived experiences to help them with some sort of capacity challenge in order to allow their organizations to grow, it means more to them than any financial investment. Sometimes we're providing in either one session or a couple weeks or a couple months more than what they have articulated they've been able to do over the course of almost sometimes 2 years, just because they're pulled in so many different directions. We also know that while we don't completely have all of the answers, we have a lot of tools that we use at our company. So we say use the tools that we have in our toolbox to introduce those specific tools to organizations that might really see a benefit of being able to implement them and achieve even greater solutions in their offerings with their community advancements. We really ask our 3M skills-based volunteers to lead with empathy, to listen to learn and ask questions to understand before offering potential tools that we use in these core roles and responsibilities each and every day at 3M, to almost embrace skills-based volunteerism with a servant leadership mindset. We hope that every organization that works with 3M volunteers walks away from collaboration with a tangible deliverable and an implementation plan that will allow them a pathway towards achieving their specific goals. What brought us together in the first place through Taproot, through Taproot Plus, and then adding that sweet spot, those skills-based volunteers in order to really have a great recipe towards finding a pathway forward for some of these organizations.
Thank you, Stacey. I knew it was going to be challenging for me to curb my enthusiasm, and I didn't see or hear any amens or hallelujahs as you were delivering your remarks, but as there are folks that are coming here representing companies, I hope that they existed in what you had to say. Leading with empathy, working your way at 3M, wanting to do more than just win in business were just some of the notes that I was keeping and so grateful for. So here's the point in our conversation where we want to turn it back to you, our participants, and introduce our next poll to ask you, which of Stacey's many motivations to bring skill-based volunteering to 3M resonated most with you? So we hope that you'll see the options that we have provided, as well as an all-important other category. If Stacey did not cover something that is important to the company that you're representing or an employee of, we'd love to know what that is. So please do write that into the chat if it's not an option, but other is your choice. So many things. I hope folks are keeping notes that Stacey had introduced. Long-term impact. I heard from Stacey a return on investment from an employee in their provision of professional expertise to a nonprofit may be lasting for 2 or 3 years later. Perhaps they're using the same template to run their events year over year over year, or maybe their financial books are finally in order and that nonprofit is set up for success well beyond that. If you haven't had a chance, please enter your voice into these results. Again, if you don't see them as a participant here in our time today, we'll be sure to get them back to you, because the intent was to see where you fit among your peers that have attended here today. As a very important piece to today's conversation, we not only want to hear from Stacey in her wisdom as a CSR leader, bringing skill-based volunteering to employees throughout the company and enterprise, but we're delighted to have one of the most exceptional skill-based volunteers themselves in Ginny. And so, Ginny, I'd love to transition us and close the poll for now. and move us on into your perspectives and experience in what's going to be a really incredible journey. You're going to take us back past even a decade, and that just amazes me all the more. So Ginny, please, welcome, and please introduce yourself and what you have to say about your experience.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. I just want to double check. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, I'm not sure where everybody is dialing in from. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Ginny Agresti, and I'm a statistician at 3M. And as Jeff pointed out, I am just a fanatical skills-based volunteer. So as he said, it's been quite a journey over more than a decade. And I'm thrilled that Taproot invited me to share that. And it's great to partner with Stacey to talk about what skills-based volunteering looks like at 3M. So where does the story start? It starts all the way back in 2012. So I was actually working at a different company then. I had left 3M to work for another company. Great company, great job, bad fit. So in early 2012, I just really wasn't very happy. So a friend of my husband and mine, her brother was the executive director at the Hemophilia Foundation here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And so as part of this fundraiser, my husband and I went, and one of the speakers there was a woman who was a doctor who donated her time to, they had like camps for kids and other services, other programs. And she talked about how she was able to use her skills as a doctor to support their efforts. I was blown away. And I sat there and thought, could I do something like that? What if I could take my skills, and my skills are in statistics and process improvement, and I've done that work for years. Could I take those skills and donate them, give them to a nonprofit organization? So the picture below me is a couple of guys. So the guy on the left, Tom, he's the brother-in-law of the Hemophilia Foundation executive director. And he had worked in nonprofits. I said, Tom, what do you think? You know what I do. Do you think nonprofits need that? Do they want that? So he said, I have no idea, but you can talk to Rich. So the other man, Rich Cowles, was at that time the executive director at the Charities Reviews Council here in Minnesota, basically an organization that vets nonprofits for their, that's what I'm looking for, viability as organizations. So Tom introduced me to Rich, and I explained to Rich what I was looking for. I'm like, do you think this is something somebody can do as a job? Could I go and work at a nonprofit doing what I do? Rich had no idea, but he knew who I could talk to. And so he passed me along to another one of his contacts, and they had contacts, and Rich had contacts. And over the next several months, I did a lot of networking just to learn more about the nonprofit world. I had only ever worked in for-profit companies, so I didn't know anything about the vocabulary, the priorities, about the nonprofit world, and I learned so much. The big thing I learned was that organizations don't typically have resources to hire someone like me. Being a consultant is a little too up in the air for me, and only very large nonprofits like the American Red Cross have anybody who does anything similar to me. Okay, so, in the meantime, I was looking for other kinds of positions, and I was able to go back to 3M, which was wonderful. And I went back into the group that did process improvement and statistics. So over the next 6 years or so, I was able to work my network to find opportunities to apply what I do as volunteering to a nonprofit. And 3M has always been very generous with employees' time, with encouraging us, with helping us find opportunities, and this was great. So I was able, the first set of projects were with Merit Community Services. It's an organization here in the Twin Cities, and 3M supports it. It's right in the same area as 3M. And they have a food shelf. They do Meals on Wheels, a bunch of different types of services for their participants. And their problem was that the people that would go to their food shelf would have to wait in line, sometimes for hours, to make it all the way through the food shelf and to select their items. So I rustled up a team of process improvement people from 3M in the group that I was working in. And we went and helped our community, Merrick, figure out how to reduce the time that people would have to wait. That was magic for me. It was wonderful. I loved the people I met. I loved the work. I loved that I was donating my skills for something that was so important to them and their participants. And it was great. I was able to draw on resources at 3M in terms of people with different skills who were able to volunteer some of their time as well. So one thing kind of led to another, and I wound up having similar projects with legal aid services. I did a data analysis project with a women's domestic violence survivor shelter, all sorts of different organizations who needed process improvement and or data analysis. And this was just great. So later on, and now 20 to 23, right, we're in the middle of the pandemic, but this is where I discovered that 3M had partnered with Taproot, this wonderful organization. And I really want to give them a huge shout out that would help 3M connect skills-based volunteers with opportunities. And all of this was virtual, right? We had to do that during the pandemic. And so I worked on projects with groups here in the Twin Cities, but other ones in different parts of the country. Sometimes the projects were small, hour or two, and other times they lasted for weeks and weeks and months. And so it's just been this great opportunity for me to expand what I'm doing, to always seek and explore and sign up for new opportunities. All right, so where am I today? 2024. So the current project I've got going that I found through Taproot is with Celebration Theater, a theater company in Los Angeles that focuses on the LGBTQ community. And what they need help with is developing an impact dashboard. We love dashboards in corporate America, and nonprofits do too. And that whole question of quantifying impact, kind of an interesting question. It's a theater company. What do they impact? And you can sort of imagine how many people go to their shows, do people go on and want to volunteer, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been working on this project now for a number of months. And Taproot, every couple of weeks, send me a note. How's everything going? Do you need any help? Which has just been wonderful. So please advance the slide. Here are some of the things I discovered along the way. There's so much about my community and giving that I never knew. I love to tell the story that one of the projects I did with a food shelf here, when I met the person who was working there, she told me that toilet paper is gold. I thought, okay, well, that's sort of interesting. What do you mean by that? So it turns out that SNAP, or food stamps, pays for food, but it doesn't pay for things like toilet paper, menstruation products, those kinds of things. Their clients or participants need those things, but they can't get them with SNAP benefits. And a food shelf doesn't want to use its budget to buy those sorts of things. So that was where I stopped donating things like canned food, canned vegetables. And all of the food shelves I worked with were always grateful for any kind of donation. I don't want to imply that they don't appreciate that. But I really got a good appreciation that hunger is more complex than I thought. And there are other ways that I can support that work. Second thing I learned is that really people want to help people. I wanted to help people. I didn't know how. Well, Tom and Rich didn't know how I could help people, but they knew people who could help me figure that out. And then as I've worked on my projects, the people around me, people at 3M, outside 3M, whenever I've gone to them, hey, I'm working on this. I need this kind of person, this kind of time. Can you help me out? Once people knew how they could help, they quickly signed up. I never realized I had the kinds of skills I do. And because I've worked for so long in a corporate setting, I actually know quite a bit more than I thought I did about dashboards, about project plans, about holding effective meetings, about teamwork tools. Wow, I kind of learned a lot along the way, and I was able to find that to be useful for the people in the organizations that I was supporting. There's no shortage of fantastic organizations. We have so much need here in the Twin Cities and in greater Minnesota and around the country and then around the world. Taproot helped me find a project to work with an organization that runs a school in Zambia. So, wow, I couldn't even find that on the map when I started. Wonderful organizations. And I've had the fortune of working with food shelves, legal aid services, domestic violence survivor shelters, children's museum. This incredible range of opportunities and wonderful work. And it's such a joy for me to be able to be part of that work that they do. So thank you very much for listening to my story about my journey. If you're someone who's thinking about skills-based volunteering, trust me, you have more skills than you think. You know somebody who knows somebody who could help connect you. If you're one of the organizations that might want skills-based volunteering, you probably have a board of directors who may have someone who works in a big corporation that has some kind of process improvement program, also has a skills-based volunteering program, etc. So as I discovered, it really isn't hard to get into it, and the reward is almost instant. So I'll turn it back to Jeff. Like I said, thank you so much to everyone for letting me share my story today.
Thank you, Ginny. The world is an absolutely more beautiful place because of who you are and what you do as well. And so I'm surprised that we don't have an additional 12 slides with which we can cover your best practices. You covered so many. So now turning it back to the audience with an additional promise or a new promise for you. If we can open up this next poll, I'm going to do something novel for this third and final poll, and I'll provide the results of what you're answering. So thank you to some participant for that suggestion. Ginny covered so much that it feels we missed quite a bit by just listing these options in another category. But like the past poll, if you're answering the other category, please share what it is that's important to you about your volunteer journey. Ginny covered so much, her collaboration with peers, thinking about 3M as a company that creates essential products for life, but also that it is comprised of incredibly smart and talented individuals like Ginny, who's not wearing her MIT alma mater, but is just part of her bona fides. That is very impressive, as I'm sure it is with many of her colleagues as well. So shout out to the Ivy Leaguers and other dedicated employees. And hopefully Ginny's remarks responded to all of you, whether you're coming in a CSR position, you're coming as an employee volunteer, or if you're coming today as a nonprofit leader. We all have the opportunity to serve our skills and talents, and something that Ginny had said in her remarks is absolutely true among the nonprofit space and among researchers that are looking at nonprofit needs, and that is more than 90% of nonprofits that we work with and that exist out there in the world are resource constrained, and they need the kinds of help that Ginny is looking for, even if they don't know it yet. And I thought I saw some commentary in the chat, which I'm thrilled that participants are making use of, and that is that there are all kinds of ways, maybe even an unlimited amount of ways with which you as an individual can give your professional expertise to help a nonprofit do what they do better, more effectively, more efficiently, and to reach more people. Okay, my promise, I want to deliver on that. So of the question that was asked of you, which of Ginny's experiences is most important to moving you forward on your volunteer journey? it looks like our top winner at about 20% was company resources. So this is a moment to congratulate 3M for creating the space with which employees there can be supportive of nonprofits in their community. We also got self-confidence. So for the 3% of you that answered that question, I'm really glad that you did. We experienced that what we call imposter syndrome is a really great barrier, even though, as Ginny can attested to, it's just a discovery process of understanding what skills you have to improve processes that exist at a nonprofit. And you heard very directly and in plain words from her that the support that she gave an organization meant that individuals, families, working families spent less time in line to get the care that they need. We also heard from many of you that networking opportunities were important as well. And so we're hoping that this and Taproot can be a resource for you for that your company can be a resource, but also, as Ginny had shared, that your friends can be a resource as well. So thank you for answering those polls. I'm responding to everything that I'm seeing here through my screen. And so we'll close this poll. Thank you again for your participation here. And we will now transition into some questions and answer period. So I think our next slide is a good placeholder where Stacey, Ginny, and I are here for your questions. A reminder to please use the chat for those questions, and maybe some had already come through that I was unable to see or respond to, but we're eager for your participation. What's on your mind? What questions do you have from what you heard from Stacey, Ginny, or myself in the prior 30 minutes? I'll get those questions from a colleague of mine and repeat them back to folks that may not have seen it themselves in the chat. One of our first questions is if Taproot is only available to volunteers and companies in the United States. And our answer is that if you think back to an earlier slide we presented, we've partnered with more than 110 Fortune 500 companies. Those companies have workforces that are spread out throughout the globe. And so Taproot is able to partner with companies and volunteers globally. Our platform, Taproot Plus, which is, as Stacey had mentioned and Ginny had mentioned as well, is accessible to 3M employees on demand and year-round. Taproot Plus is available in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in India, in Canada, and throughout the European Union. And we're working on access and growing as a nonprofit organization to get access to other countries throughout the world. But great question, especially if you're coming from outside of the United States. Another thing I'll say just about impact through Taproot as a skill-based volunteer, and Ginny had mentioned this herself, and that is there are always opportunities to support organizations that have their registration process in one of the countries that I have mentioned, but maybe serving communities locally or outside of that location. I'll check my notes here again. This one is coming to Stacey. Stacey, if you can share with us a little bit more about how you leverage Taproot Plus and do-it-yourself skill-based volunteering to support 3M's core nonprofit partners. I imagine that 3M supports hundreds, if not thousands, of nonprofits, but if you can think about how are you using Taproot Plus and skill-based volunteering to support maybe some of your priority partners?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the question. We do quite a bit with Taproot just in general. We've had some great success just leaning into them for all things pro bono as our pro bono contracted partner, subject matter expertise in local opportunities. So when we think about our nonprofit partners, not necessarily right away with Taproot Plus and having them make offerings, but certainly if there is a program that we're doing, maybe within our site communities, we've even done a hackathon for several years with small businesses in our headquartered market. We can then turn to those partners and offer them Taproot Plus as a way to kind of continue the impact, so to speak, right? So if we've worked directly with our core partners on a 3M impact, as we've deemed our program to be called, our skills-based pro bono internal program. It's a great way to then say, when we're done with this, the impact can continue. You can be a part of Taproot Plus, connect with other 3Mers or other like-minded employees of companies that also are a part of Taproot Plus in either exploring a completely different challenge or topic, or continuing to build upon perhaps what we started with you as a program that we've rolled out real successfully.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Stacey. It reminds me of something very important, especially for our CSR folks, but also volunteers, and something Ginny didn't cover in her remarks, but very well could have. And that is the availability with which employees have to give of their time and talent. And that can depend. For some employees, it might be on a specific day or through a specific set of weeks. And then their availability is lost because you're in the business to do your business. And so you're mentioning something I wish could be possible with all of our corporate partners, and that is that balance of providing team-based events that are specific points in time. You saw that folks that are listening, that's how Taproot partners with companies, but then also giving that opportunity to carry on that love and attention that sometimes, as a matchmaker, we know that we're making the match, but then the beautiful stories happen thereafter. So thank you for that, Stacey. And Ginny, I've got a question for you as well. We have one of our participants who's volunteered with a couple of organizations and at times see some unresponsiveness from those organizations. How, Ginny, have you tackled with some of your nonprofit leaders who haven't been as responsive as you would have liked?
Thank you for the question. That's one thing that I discovered when I first started doing projects. The timeline could be a little different. Again, typically nonprofits don't have as many resources. The work they do is immediate. If you have people lined up to go to a food shelf, you have to get that done because those are the people who need your help. So the way that I've managed it, a couple of things. One is, you mentioned hackathons and some of the sort of time frame specific projects. And so, the volunteers and the organization can commit to that time. Sometimes they can't. And I've discovered that because that time frame is a little different in a nonprofit than maybe what we see in a corporate setting, is just to be upfront. And some projects just weren't the right time. Other priorities, other things happened. People left positions. And in some cases, I'll get a call back and, hey, things have settled down. We want to get it going again. I think the main thing is just to have an honest conversation from the perspective. I know you're busy. You're doing a lot of work. Is this just not the right time for you? And not to take offense. It was hard for me. I'm like, I wanted to help you. I was doing all this stuff. It's just a matter of fitting in to their priorities and to understand them. A big part of this is all about listening, and I've learned so much. So, I don't know that there's any magic thing to do other than to be really upfront with whoever you're working with and say, is this the right time? What does it look like? Do we have to make the project smaller? Do we have to come back? And then, where I've been accessible, organizations have come back and we've done more work.
Well, I'm so appreciative of that response, Ginny, and hope that the participant that asked it is feeling the same way. Skill-based volunteering is very much relational-based. You're building relationships with others, and it's really important to get those communications right. Relationship-based doesn't mean a lifetime relationship either, for any of you who may be thinking that you're being asked to commit to something more than you have time for. But as Ginny, as you mentioned, just an honest, open conversation is helpful for the learning process for both parties. We don't have a nonprofit leader here to talk about how they worked with Ginny and Stacey, but that I'm sure is going to come in the future, and I'm sure that they would agree that they would equally respect that open, honest conversation about timelines. Employee volunteers, nonprofit leaders learn a lot about each other and learn a lot about the industry that they're coming from, which makes the world a better place as well. Got a couple more questions that are coming in. So grateful for that, for you, our participants who are asking that. This question is a technical one about setting up notifications to learn about opportunities that are related to their skill set. So one of the beautiful things about Taproot Plus, the platform that Stacey and Ginny are using at 3M and that is also available to many of you, is that you create a profile that lists over, that gives you the opportunity to list over 100 professional skills that nonprofits that are seeking requests can ask about. That's an exploratory process as well, as Ginny had attested to in her remarks. Once you set that up, it's a lot like your favorite streaming service in the sense that when you identify your skills, when you identify your social cause area interests, you will be presented with, through our algorithm, opportunities that match those skills and interests. At that point, much of what Ginny said, again, is music to my ears. I'm the choir repeating the praise that she is, and wisdom that she's offering us. And that is, there's a negotiation process to understand more clearly what a nonprofit is asking for and what skills you have to give. So if what you're presented with is not a perfect match, it takes some time to reflect on whether it's really close and you have an opportunity to move forward. Because as Ginny had attested to, who doesn't want to join her on her journey, giving her skills and getting back from it as well. Thank you for that question as well. All technical questions are reasonable to ask as well. Again, if we don't get to them in this Q&A portion, we'll follow up with you after and would love to have a conversation with you. Stacey, one more. This might be a tough question, kind of put you on the hot seat, so hopefully it doesn't make you too nervous. But this question is if 3M has seen any elevated success from any particular business unit or department. So have you seen some great success stories? And this unfortunately presents you with a choice: marketing, HR, IT, Stacey's or Ginny's department. Is there any great success stories from one business unit over another?
Yeah, I would say, even though it sounds a bit cliche, all of the above, right? I would check every one of those boxes. The unique thing that we feel that we're able to help the world with is just that we have so many different unique skills within the company, whether you're in HR. We also have a lot of opportunities. So people like myself have moved into different roles throughout our career and our time at 3M. So we're bringing a lot to the table, and we're bringing then a lot back from our experiences to help our project teams, our collaboration internally. It's a bit of a win-win for us. We feel we're not only, we think, poised to help the world with some of those tools that we called out, that Ginny called out, that we're able to offer to NGOs or social enterprise that maybe they haven't been exposed to before. Our Lean Six Sigma tools, our Kaizen, our spreadsheets, we could go on and on and on. HR tools, IT tools, engineering. We've got a lot of fantastic people in our research and development department, marketing. I could go on and on, but it's a combination of both, I would say, professional and sometimes educated skills, as we've also covered, and then those lived experiences. There can be a lot that I think people can bring their whole selves to the table in order to try to help, but also collaborate with people in a very different sphere of their work experience as well. If you're coming together as a team, it takes all of us around that table in order to kind of move the needle and help these organizations just be the very best that they can be.
A very acceptable response, Stacey, for sure, because all of it is really true. There are opportunities to grow vertically, to transition, to learn new skills. Skill-based volunteering isn't only about providing your expertise, but it's growing into new skills as well, and making everyone in the company better as a result of it as well. Of course, 3M gets that benefit from Ginny's experience and not the company that she left from early on, but that happens. So thank you, Stacey, and thank you for the question. It's a good question as well, where it's coming from. Oftentimes, companies will see a particular business unit thrive more often, but we're seeing that kind of success across the enterprise at 3M. We've got 2 questions, but you also may have heard an audible reminder that we're coming up on at the top of a new hour. And so I want to answer these 2 questions, but also invite you to continue asking those questions so that we can deliver on responding to them after our session today. But the first was for employees that wanted to take part in skill-based volunteering. Are there any recommended onboarding steps or resources? So the 2 answers I would give to you would be specific to Taproot Plus, which is available to you. The first is to complete your profile. If we don't know what skills or interests you have to give, we can't help you as much as if we do know those. So in the onboarding process, when you create a profile, make sure that you're identifying what professional skills we have to offer that you want to give and your social interests as well. Second, Taproot produces a pro bono project guide. This is a helpful resource for both nonprofit leader and employee to follow along so that they can kick off their relationship in the right way and know, from what Ginny had shared with us as well, that there's opportunity to have open, honest conversations on timeline, on scope, and on mission, and everybody's availability. So those would be the 2 resources I would suggest in response to that question as well. And then I got another question, and this is hopefully relevant for all participant categories and can be a good way for us to segue into the next steps resources that we wanted to introduce. And that's if you're interested in getting onto this journey or accelerating on it more quickly, Taproot would love to partner with you on that. And so if I could ask my colleague Kristen to reintroduce some of our final slides before we transition into a goodbye, we'd love to offer these next steps for you. First off, based on the participant category that you most closely identify with, we'd like to speak to companies in this first slide that's next. So if you're a company with us today and you're running a CSR program, I'd love for you to connect with us. In the deck, you'll have a link to contact me and have a conversation about where you're at and where you want to go. These are some other suggestions that we have for you. So much great content from Stacey and Ginny today, and hopefully through your own notes. So we do encourage you to reflect on what your company wants, what your employees want, and what's motivating everyone. But we certainly encourage you to connect with us. Next, if you most identify with a volunteer, so again, you might take on multiple identities. If you're here today because you did want to grow your skills and appreciated what Ginny had to share with us, as well as how Stacey has shown us that 3M employees are gaining benefits from their skill-based volunteer experience, here are some actionable items that you can pursue. Taproot is most certainly ready to help you through our volunteer office hours that take place on a monthly basis, our volunteer community manager, and I had mentioned our pro bono project guide as well. And then finally, if you are here because you're a nonprofit leader and you wanted to learn what's motivating companies and employees, kudos to you. You're listening to the source of where your help is coming from. And so we hope that that was helpful to you. Taproot Plus is available to you to request that support. We're talking 100 different skill sets and an opportunity for you for free, thanks to the generosity of companies like 3M and our other corporate and philanthropic sponsors to make this possible. And so we encourage you to ask for help and then partner with Taproot to find the volunteers like Ginny and like Stacey, their colleagues and others who are willing to give their time and talent to you for the missions that you're supporting throughout the world. So with that, I'd love to just get eye contact again with Ginny and Stacey to say thank you to them. Yes, all right, there you are. What wonderful faces, what wonderful, beautiful hearts. Thank you so much for your participation as speakers. We'd also like to thank everybody that's participated. I didn't see them one to one, but we know that you're here and you've been listening throughout. So we thank you to our participants. And thank you to our speakers, Ginny and Stacey, two wonderful individuals. We'll close today's recording and wish everybody well in the rest of their afternoon and their week ahead, as today is a Monday. And if you're joining us from across the Atlantic or another time zone, we wish you a great evening and week ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ginny.